Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
The 2026 FIFA World Cup, we are literally a little bit more than a year away from the biggest event in sports. And I say that not one of the biggest event in sports. Representing your country, but we're also doing it here in the U.S. And I think that that's something that's important to mention, because you've heard me, you've heard Jose, you've heard plenty of people talk about it. The U.S. is in fact a football nation, not the traditional football nation, right? But I'm saying that there's a lot of fandom in football. They're just not a soccer. Well, actually, no, correction. I don't think that's what I said. U.S. is a soccer nation. They're not a football nation. They're kind of becoming a football nation because of all the Latin influence, but it's still the U.S. and there's still people here in this country that don't generally think soccer is a legitimate sport for some weird reason. For some weird reason, they can't comprehend why the rest of the world loves this game, yet they feel that they're the ones that can say what is what, right? Look, I grew up in the United States. I love it. I love the United States. I love being American. I mean, I serve my country. But growing up, someone that does like soccer, someone that does truly love this sport and loves talking about this sport, I get it. I've heard all of it. Like every time. When I remember my time in the Marine Corps, everyone was like, "Hey, do you play any sports?" And I was like, "Yeah, I played soccer." Like, "Oh, that's not a sport. Oh, that's not a sport. Oh, no, that's not a real game. It's just guys flopping around." That's like all I heard. The grass fairies, stupid, the flopping. That's the one thing I always hear. And then, and like I said, I grew up in America. I grew up in Texas, where American football is king. I'm a big baseball fan, but at the end of the day, soccer, football, that is the sport for me. But there is still a lot of people that just generally don't care for the sport. Now, there are people that care for the sport. They just don't care for the American product. They don't care about MLS. They don't care very much about the U.S. men's national team. They view the U.S. men's national team as an inferior team, which in reality, they are. And we need to stop acting like the U.S. is in the same conversation as France, Brazil, Spain, Germany. We need to stop believing that we're at that level. We're not that level. We're at the level, like, we're not a minnow, but we're in that middle tier, right? Like that middle tier that could be good at times, but maybe they go on a special run, and who knows, but they're not the U.S. is never gonna be an odds-on favorite to win the World Cup. I don't expect them to be the odds-on favorite for this World Cup. So, but I think that people need to understand that's where the U.S. is. The U.S. is not going to be a world beater, or at least viewed as a world beater. And I mean, they can't even right now. I don't even think you can say U.S. is a dark horse, because they can't beat a world beater. At least we've seen Mexico do it. We've never seen the U.S. The U.S. has had moments in the past, but recently, we haven't. We just haven't seen it. The England draw is probably like the highlight, honestly, from the World Cup in Qatar. That was probably the highlight of the U.S., and that is a draw. We didn't beat England. We drew against England. And also, it's an England that a lot of people find to be overwhelming sometimes as well. With that being said, man, this U.S. team is just not that. So when people don't care about the U.S. men's, the reason why many Americans will probably not care for the World Cup is because if the U.S. is in it and they're not good, They want to support a team that's going to win it, and the U.S. is not even remotely close to having a team that can win it. Maybe in a few years, if we're able to do the youth system correctly, if pay to play could somehow be removed at some point, who knows? But right now, it's just we're limited. The U.S. is very limited with what they have. They have the infrastructure, they have all that, but they just have a limited player pool. And the reason why I say that is because you can see what happens when you have an unlimited player pool. You get what the U.S. women's national team is, right? That is a prime example. They don't have a proper youth system, but the soccer for women is very much accessible. There is a women's soccer team in every college almost. So it is more accessible. You have a larger talent pool, so you can pull from better. You can get a better pool of players for your roster. That's why it seems like they just reload every cycle and still become the top contenders that they are in the world for women's soccer. But men's soccer, it doesn't follow the same because one, just using college soccer as a whole, like obviously the youth system it's there. It's just not great, but it's there. The college system, it's fairly limited. Not every college has a men's soccer team. So your talent pool is very limited because of the limited amount of scholarships that they can offer to college soccer players. So, and once again, the fact that there isn't a proper, well, I don't want to say, I hate using the word proper. The fact that you don't have like a good youth system, that's what hurts the U.S. in this case, and that's why they get with a limited player pool. If you had a much larger player pool, maybe you get more Ricardo Pepes, maybe you get more Diego Lunas, that can show mentality with the same time of talent, and like a few more will slip through the cracks. And I think that's what's missing for the U.S. right now. Till they are able to get that, they're just not going to get it. Anyways, aside from that, they still need to build hype around it. And you're kind of seeing now, like you're seeing Gianni Infantino interviewing with people. I know he was interviewed during the Super Bowl, and they showed him in the Super Bowl. They showed pictures of Messi at the Super Bowl with some of his teammates from Miami. But yeah, so like I said, we're a year and a few months away from the biggest event in sports. So a lot of hype is starting to grow, right? All the cities are unveiling the custom artwork for their respective sites. Like for instance, Houston, their poster is an astronaut with a cowboy hat throwing up the H. Pretty cool, honestly. And along with posters and artwork and all that, different themes for every city in the World Cup that's hosting a World Cup game, World Cup matches. There's also going to be unique music for that. So Houston has one that has a little chop and screw in it. We're actually one of these days, me, Edward, Kelsey, and I think Spencer, we're gonna do a 3-up 3-down on that because I think it'd be really cool to see like what city is like well liked amongst everybody and who was just straight cheeks. But so you have that hype going. Now you're seeing like some of the crossover collabs with Adidas, right? Because you have Messi and Patrick Mahomes at your disposal. So they had at BMO Stadium in LA, they had a picture with Messi and Patrick Mahomes, right? Messi, the GOAT, right? The GOAT for a lot of people when it comes to soccer, and Patrick Mahomes, the GOAT right now for American football. And obviously they're not going to use Tom Brady because Tom Brady's an Under Armour guy, but Patrick Mahomes is an Adidas athlete. So they have the picture with them with the World Cup trophy getting more attention. A lot of people are like, oh, Messi doesn't need Patrick Mahomes. You're right. But, as far as like people seeing Patrick Mahomes with Messi, they're like, okay, Mahomes likes soccer. Let's, get into soccer. I think that's the kind of like the objective. But, and then on top of all that, Gianni Infantino, like I said, has been doing a lot of interviews with for Super Bowl, but then he also went on FS1. He did his a little series of interviews as well over there, and he was with Colin Cowherd, and he gave a quote that I think might piss off some people, but in reality, I don't disagree with it. So here's a quote: "The impact will be global. I mean, look at the Super Bowl, which is fantastic. It has what 120, 130 million viewers, right? The World Cup has 6 billion viewers over a month matches. That just to get that reference. So a World Cup is 104 Super Bowls in a month, which is 3 Super Bowls a day. This can happen every week if you have the best league in the world. Now, some people, once again, like every Super Bowl, you always have the all-time clip of the guy asking like, "What's bigger, what's bigger, the World Cup or the Super Bowl?" And everyone's like, you have the Americans saying, "Oh, the Super Bowl, Super Bowl." It's the ultimate gladiator sport and all. Technically, the closest thing to gladiator sport is combat. Is the combat sporting. Like MMA and boxing. Those are the true gladiator sports. I don't know why football is viewed as the true gladiator sport when, yes, it is a contact based sport. But if you're talking about combat, yeah, it's probably UFC and boxing. But anyways, going back to this. I don't think like the thing is with me. I think this goes back to just me growing up as an American that loves soccer. The people that just don't get soccer, that don't get why the rest of the world likes this sport, why they don't get it, and it's just you point out like people love this sport. Like the Super Bowl, yes, gets a lot of views, but that's one game out of the year. The World Cup, every single game gets that kind of viewership because you're getting a chance to watch teammates play, teammates from a club play against each other because they're playing for different countries. You have guys that maybe their country has never been up there before. You get these cool stories, right? Like, a few years ago we had Honduras make it to the World Cup. We had 2006 prime example. Ecuador made their first appearance in the World Cup, and you could just see the emotions on these guys representing their country. Like the storylines in the World Cup is just there's nothing close to it. And every single game does in fact matter because in those 3 group matches, you have to perform your best to become those top 2 teams that goes on to the knockout round. So it is very imperative. Each match is very crucial. And so, yes, because it is the world sport, yeah, it is massive. You're going to have multiple views for this one game. Yeah, um, it could be Japan versus New Zealand. There's going to be a lot of views in that match. And so it doesn't matter the countries because each game is significant, especially when we get down to those final days, those final match days of the group stage. And then when it gets to the knockout round, when it's win or go home, it's going to get more and more intense. The viewership is going to be crazy. The World Cup is insignificantly larger than the Super Bowl. It is just a fact. This is in general a fact. I mean, and I hate using the Super Bowl as a comparison because in reality it's different, right? Super Bowl's every year. A World Cup is every 4 years. So every 4 years you build up the hype and excitement. You're hoping that your national team's generation of players, that rotation, that pool of players can do something special and win a World Cup. That's why how like everyone right now in the U.S. finds this World Cup very imperative because this is the first this is a chance to finally start getting Americans into the sport, and get these guys sold on this U.S. team. And we're not talking about winning the World Cup. We're talking about just getting past the group stage, maybe winning a knockout round game. That's what we're hoping for. Hope to get that just to finally get Americans to be like, you know what? Soccer is great. Let's watch more soccer. Let's be part of this. Let's grow this game. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're actually hoping for. And I think, when we can get people to understand what this sport can do at the highest level, get people to support their local MLS teams, get people to or USL teams. I don't really care, but for them to understand that this game is so much bigger than they think it is. It is not a minuscule game. It is not a poor man's game. Like whatever they think it is, a communistic ploy, whatever they think this game is, it is far from it. It is a beautiful game. It unites worlds. This a World Cup match. I think it was like there was 2 countries in war, right? They stopped the war. They did a ceasefire just to watch the World Cup. Like that, if that doesn't tell you anything, I just don't know what else is. Like I want more Americans to stop putting the blinders in this game. Like that's really what I want to see. I just want people to stop, disrespecting this game. And I don't at this point I have no idea what else to do. So And I think it's gonna, and unfortunately, it's gonna come down to how this U.S. team performs in the World Cup. Because if this team performs in the World Cup, we'll get more eyes.
Who is that guy?